This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer LaGrassa. Katarina is away. Donald Trump's auto tariffs appear to be paying off big time for Michigan. Automaker Stellantis just announced it will be making a record investment, putting $13 billion towards growing its presence in the U.S. Stellantis says it will expand its U.S. production by 50%, which translates into 5,000 new jobs. That expansion will include 5 new vehicle launches over the next 4 years. The company will reopen a plant in Belvidere, Illinois, to produce a new Jeep product. But Detroit is also a big winner in this announcement. Stellantis says the next generation Dodge Durango will be built in the city. According to the company, this is the largest single investment in its 100-year history. The opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge has officially been delayed again. The Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority says that construction on the bridge will wrap up this year, but it's not expected to open until early 2026. No specific date was given. The Bridge Authority says that work to test and commission the bridge and the ports of entry still need to be done.
I wouldn't say that there's one specific reason. It's, we do a test. We look at the outcomes of the test. There's a minor tweak that needs to get done. You do the minor tweak and then you retest and then you retest. So that's really the process that we're at, is that testing and retesting. And again, taking the time to make sure that it's done right and done to meet the expectations that our future travelers are going to want to see at this new piece of infrastructure.
The bridge was originally supposed to open last November, but that was pushed to September 2025 due to COVID-related disruptions. That delay added $700 million to the cost of the bridge, which is being paid for by the Canadian government. Construction on the bridge is 98% complete, according to the Bridge Authority, and it says this delay won't come with any extra costs. We're learning more about a pedestrian who died on Sunday. The Windsor man was walking across a road in the city's West End when he was hit by 2 vehicles. The incident happened at an unmarked crossing on Sandwich Street. As Dalton Chen reports, his friends and family are remembering him as a man of action and purpose.
A pedestrian who was fatally struck on a West Windsor roadway is being mourned as a multifaceted man who touched many communities, from the arts to education. Kim Dwayne Elliott succumbed to injuries he suffered on October 12th when he was hit by 2 vehicles while walking across Sandwich Street. Kim Elliott's older brother, John Elliott, is remembering a man who lived life to the fullest.
Kim just had that passion for life, man, and he wanted to be involved. Kim lived his life, man. He packed everything. I thought today as I was coming over, he packed a whole lot into his life. Just a tragic accident, man. That's all I can say.
A 62-year-old grandfather at the time of his death, Kim Elliott, or Kimba Freeman as he sometimes called himself, wore many hats throughout his life. Activist, artist, deacon, musician, firefighter, teacher, historian, storyteller, and more. This past summer, Elliott published a book of memoirs entitled Windsor West: Lasting Impressions. It was meant to be the first volume in a trilogy. Close family friend TJ Travis feels Kim Elliott still had much more to say.
I think of Kim now, I'm thinking of that legacy that he always talked about leaving behind. He's just a force of nature. Him being physically, not present with us anymore, it's leaving this gap in the community. Kim is so much bigger than an accident.
Windsor-Essex Black community advocates Leslie McCurdy and Lana Talbot say Kim Elliott was a lifelong champion for Blackness, as well as his Indigenous ancestry.
The things that Kim was doing in our community to make sure that our contributions, our presence, our stories were remembered is essential.
I'm going to miss Kim to the point where I don't know. And I get very emotional because Kim really, really, really did the best he had, the best he could give.
Elliott's death and other pedestrian fatalities in Windsor this year have renewed calls for the City of Windsor to prioritize Vision Zero. That's a commitment in policy and infrastructure to strive for 0 road fatalities in the municipality. Former Ward 4 City Councillor Chris Holt says it's been 10 years since he first talked about it at City Hall, and he hasn't seen much progress.
it's hard to convince a city that's entrenched in car culture to actually put limitations on their automobile use. It's a very difficult thing to do. It takes amazing political will to actually stand up and say this is important to our community. And to date, we haven't really made any steps.
Kim Elliott is survived by many family members, both immediate and extended. Windsor police are continuing to investigate the collision. As of October 14th, no one has been charged. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
Colette Kennedy is here. Colette, what are things like out there?
Well, it's been really quite a beautiful day. I mean, up to almost 21 degrees, still holding around 20. And maybe around 3 o'clock, you notice the wind's kind of picking up a little bit, a little blustery or blustery, I guess I want to say, with that cold front that's coming through. And that's going to bring our temperatures back down. Plus, we've got this system that's just to the west of us, bringing some cloud cover and a slight chance of showers, mostly early tomorrow morning. Your low tonight then down to 10 degrees, and then tomorrow afternoon, even though we have that activity in the morning, we'll actually be clearing into the afternoon, a little cooler than today with a high of 17.
Okay, not too bad. Thanks, Colette. While the opening date of the Gordie Howe International Bridge remains uncertain, at least one thing is clear. It's brought some perks to the community. Here's some of what people can take advantage of.
The purpose of the Gordie Howe International Bridge is the efficient and safe movement of people and goods through this very busy trade corridor. But as we moved into the construction, we understood that it's also important to recognize the value of the host communities. You know, these are the communities that will continue to be our neighbors through the 125 years that the bridge is in operations. And for us, it was an opportunity for us to say, yes, this project is about transportation, but it's also about the communities that we're working directly with. Let's start with one of the most popular aspects of the project, which is the multi-use path that's on the bridge. What's so important and so unique about that path is it was community driven. You know, we heard from people when we were doing our early consultation that a multi-use path was important to include in the bridge. That came from communities on both sides of the border. And in working with the design team and the agencies on both sides of the border, we were able to incorporate that. And then that led to a number of additional initiatives, such as the multi-use path on Broadway Street that we recently announced, and then corresponding connections that are going to be in place on the Detroit side. So this is the Malden Park observation area. And again, what we heard through consultation was that people wanted to be in a safe place to not only watch construction, but also to observe the bridge once it's in operations. So taking that idea, we worked in partnership with the City of Windsor, and were able to identify this specific location as really the optimal point that you could see the bridge from, and then designed this area as a place where you could sit and not just watch the bridge, but look out over the entire city. Port Windsor, a great partner for us, they came to us with a suggestion of working together on Queensdock Park, another amazing viewing area of the Gordie Howe International Bridge. Provides the opportunity for public to interact directly with the river by going on a dock that extends in over the waters. So when you come off the Gordie Howe International Bridge and go towards Sandwich, one of the first things you'll see is the Sandwich Street redevelopment that we did. 3 kilometers of Sandwich Street from the Rosedale Avenue roundabout just to about the port of entry. New paving, new bike lanes, new sewer work that was done. Again, very close coordination with the City of Windsor to make that happen. So overall, that makes that ride much more smooth. In total, we've done about 100 initiatives through our community benefits plan in partnership with 80 organizations on both sides of the border.
2025 has been like a cultural rebirth for this community, where we're celebrating our past, but we're also very much looking into the future with the imminent opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge and the pedestrians, the cyclists, the motorists that's going to bring to our community. We have to be very open about the fact that a lot of this improvement, majority of this improvement, has come because of the cooperation and because of the funding of WDBA and the Gordie Howe Bridge Corporation. A lot of our events we've been able to put on to sustain us through this process have come from the community benefits funding, and without that we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing.
The Ontario government is launching a multi-million-dollar ad campaign aimed at people in the U.S. warning of the dangers of tariffs. Premier Doug Ford announced the campaign during a luncheon speech this afternoon where he covered a wide range of topics and ended with an unusual story about stopping a suspected criminal. Queen's Park reporter Lorinda Redekop has the details.
Premier Doug Ford spoke in front of business and political leaders, a crowd of around 1,400 people. Before he spoke, a new Ontario government ad aired, set to launch soon south of the border.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products.
That voice narrates the entire one-minute ad, warning of the impact of tariffs.
Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs.
It ends showing the speaker, the late Republican President Ronald Reagan, from an address in 1987. Ford told the crowd it was his idea.
Let's take Ronald Reagan's words and let's blast it to the American people. And our first launch is going to be on every major network. Maybe one may not get it.
He says CNN was nervous about airing it.
We're going to launch a $75 million ad, and we're going to repeat that message to every Republican district there is, right across the entire country.
That's a big price tag. The province's Auditor General found an entire year's worth of government ad spending hit almost $104 million for the last fiscal year. And that was a record. The finance minister says he thinks it'll be worth it.
We're a $1.2 trillion economy, and I think it's going to be very effective.
How he'll judge if it's a success?
Ideally, no tariffs, and ideally a good deal for Canada, and I think that's the number one objective. Not just any deal, but a good deal and certainty for workers and for businesses in Canada.
After his speech, the Premier was interviewed on stage by Ben Mulrooney and ended with an unusual story from this summer, saying he helped stop a suspected thief outside a Home Depot.
I pull up behind him and jump out of the car. I said, buddy, what's in your bag? Nothing's in my bag. I said, buddy, I'm going to kick your ass all over the parking lot. Show me what's in your bag.
The Premier said the person pulled out a saw that the store manager identified as stolen.
And then I went on to tell him if I ever see him in the parking lot, he's going to get a beating like he's never got before. But that's what you have to do.
It was an unexpected, unprompted story from a premier who's increasingly been ending news conferences with personal rants or photo ops using props. The most cited, pouring out an entire bottle of Crown Royal. Lorinda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Dozens of holes are popping up in National Historic sites along the New Brunswick and Nova Scotia border. It appears artifacts are being dug up illegally. And as Shayna Luck tells us, there are concerns Canada's history is at risk.
It is. What do you think it is? There's no thrill like the beep of a metal detector for hobbyist Robin Perret of Winnipeg. He's been detecting for more than 6 years, even helping people recover cherished lost valuables.
That's the stuff I love. I love that treasure hunting kind of idea.
For him, historic sites are strictly off limits. But in the last few weeks, someone's been raiding 2 historic sites on either side of the New Brunswick-Nova Scotia border, seemingly digging for artifacts. Staff have found at least 150 holes, sometimes as many as 30 new holes in one night.
We have been able to determine that the activity is happening in the dead of night, and in the case of us, that's probably not with the best of intentions.
This historic site in Fairyland, Newfoundland suffered a brazen dig right through its cobblestone yard this summer. Nothing like it has happened in 30 years.
But now people are actually, for the first time ever, coming in and actually destroying those features to find a little, buckle or part of a coin or who knows what.
Archaeologists say removing artifacts messes with a place of shared history, and other detectorists have a bad name for it.
Nighthawks. Those are the people that go in, in the cover of darkness and dig up places and, leave the holes.
Parks Canada says they haven't seen this issue widely across the country, but archaeologists say it does happen every now and then. And anyone who's caught doing it on a National Historic site like this one could face a big fine, up to $25,000. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
We're going to take a look outside. Those colorful fall leaves are kind of there. You have to look to find them, but they're on their way. We're getting there soon. More news is coming up, so stay with us. New U.S. tariffs on imported timber, kitchen cabinets, and upholstered furniture came into effect Tuesday. And they include a global tariff of 10% on all softwood lumber entering the U.S. That's in addition to a 35% duty already in place on Canadian softwood.
Fundamentally, what we need to do is we need to buy more Canadian. We need to help our workers in the sector. We need to be there for the softwood lumber industry.
Finished wood products like vanities and kitchen cabinets have also been hit. They face a 25% tariff until the end of the year and a further increase to 50% starting January 1st. Upholstered chairs, seats, and sofas are subject to a 25% duty. That rate is scheduled to increase to 30% at the start of the new year. Canada is the source of about 85% of the softwood lumber entering the U.S. President Donald Trump announced the new tariffs last month. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand says India has agreed to readmit all Canadian diplomats 2 years after the relationship between the two countries ruptured. It's part of a new agreement to rebuild trust and bilateral trade between Ottawa and New Delhi. But Anand says it will be a gradual, step-by-step process. Salima Shiva is in Mumbai with more on the minister's trip to the region.
This is billed as a reset of the Canada-India relationship. Canada's Foreign Minister Anita Anand started the trip with a brief meeting with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Then she sat down with her counterpart, India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar, as well as the Commerce Minister here. And today she's in back-to-back meetings with business leaders and investors here in Mumbai. And the reigning theme here is positivity, rebuilding trust and renewing momentum. But it has to be said that most importantly, this is about both countries being pragmatic. Both are dealing with punishing tariffs from an unpredictable partner, the United States. And in that framework, restoring Canada-India ties and this relationship, which has been in tatters for 2 years after allegations of the Indian government allegedly being involved in killing a Canadian Sikh activist on Canadian soil, rebuilding those ties is seen as a necessary economic reality. And that's where the will to quietly manage the differences in the relationship instead of amplifying them is coming from.
We are in a moment where economic diplomacy, pragmatism is of crucial importance.
But of course, questions of security, of transnational repression, the practice of a government going outside of its borders to silence or intimidate critics won't go away so easily. New Delhi sees Canada as too soft on what it calls Khalistani agitators, and that view hasn't changed. When I sat down with the Foreign Affairs Minister earlier today, I asked her how she brought up these issues. Here's what she said.
At every stage, in every conversation, yesterday while I was in New Delhi, I made sure to bring up many topics within the public safety mold, including transnational repression, including public safety, including an independent RCMP investigation, including outlawing the Bishnoi gang.
But Anand will want to keep the focus on her message of economic diplomacy when she lands in Singapore and later China, another country where the diplomatic tensions have remained high. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
The Israeli military says the bodies of 4 more dead hostages have been handed to the Red Cross in Gaza. This happening as Donald Trump announced that phase 2 of the Gaza ceasefire deal has begun. Yet so many questions and concerns remain about key parts of the tenuous U.S. peace plan for the region. There are reports that Israel is cutting the number of aid trucks allowed into Gaza by half. It accuses Hamas of being too slow to return the dead hostages. The militant group says locating the bodies is challenging amid the widespread rubble. Meantime, re-emerging Hamas fighters have tightened their grip in the enclave, carrying out public executions of men they accused of collaborating with Israel. Health officials in Gaza say at least 7 people have been killed by Israeli fire. On Monday, Israel celebrated the return of the last 20 living hostages from Gaza in exchange for some 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees as part of the ceasefire's first phase. We've got your full weather forecast coming up, so stay with us. Colette Kennedy is back with us. Colette, it was a rough weekend for sports fans. Like, the Tigers are out, the Lions didn't do so well. So we need some good news with the weather, is basically what I'm saying.
Well, yes, for the Tigers, we got to wait till next year. But the Lions, you know, there's some of those injuries and those folks will be coming back. So there's time. There's still plenty of time for good things to happen there, and plenty of time for good things to happen with us. In fact, we've been having it today with some incredible conditions, temperatures above seasonal, still holding right now at 19 degrees. Lots of mild air here in place to the south and southwest, but to the west and northwest, we've got some cooler air that wants to press in. And so temperatures are just going to come down a few degrees as we move forward through the next couple of days. They're still going to be a bit above seasonal, but closer to. It could be worse. You could be looking at snowfall like Saskatchewan in some areas there. So we're just talking about, you know, a little bit of a cool down. 15 right now in Sarnia and Goderich. Those winds kind of changing direction as we were picking up a little bit too as we were moving here into the mid and later afternoon hours. So you can see generally you've got at least a northerly flow. Some cases it's a little more northwest, some cases a little more northeast if you're just looking at the directional red arrows there. But that's where that cooler air is flowing in behind this front, which is generally a pretty dry front as it's moving through. But we do have a little bit of wet weather here kind of just behind, and you can see it's a bit more extensive towards back towards Wisconsin and Minnesota, but as it comes towards southwestern Ontario, it's actually going to be sort of drying but also sliding. And what does that mean? It means some increasing cloudiness overnight tonight. A few isolated showers are possible in the late overnight or early morning hours, but I'm not going to put much more than that into the forecast. You see kind of the main band stays back here to the west, and we just get kind of tagged by that. So that's early, and by the time we get into the afternoon, this is 1 p.m., we're already clearing back out and getting into some sunshine. And not only for tomorrow afternoon will we hold that, but we'll have those clearer skies into most of Thursday as well. And then the next system coming in on Friday, but that too looking like for southwestern Ontario, likely just some lighter stuff. Temperatures tonight, we should just hold in the double digits with a low of 10 degrees. There's that 17 tomorrow on Thursday as well. We do bump up with that temperature a little bit on Saturday, but a chance of showers Friday night and also for Sunday.
Okay. Thanks so much, Colette. And thanks everyone for watching. Have a good night.